I'm really excited to have our team from the Ohio STEM Learning Network here with us today. From left to right, we have Heather Sherman, Steph Johnson, and Kelly Gayer-Evans. Each one of our presenters today work on a different teacher professional development program in Ohio. So we'll be hearing more about the Innovative Leaders Institute, the Trailblazer Teachers, and the College Ready Ohio program. So with that, let me turn it over to our presenters and take it away.
Thanks. So I'm Stephanie Johnson, and I manage the Ohio STEM Learning Network. And the Ohio Learning Network is just one of 3 STEM networks that Battelle manages. The network is set up as 7 regional hubs. I'm going to call it, I'm sorry. Networks spread throughout the state. With each of the regions, we have a coordinator and training center. Each of our regions provides professional development that is relevant to the needs of the community and the educators within their region. We, as Battelle, as the manager of the Ohio STEM Learning Network, also have developed a set of core trainings. We think of these core trainings that leads the way for professional development for educators, particularly within Ohio, but you'll see later that we have actually worked across the country. Core trainings, we have been able to attract national foundations to provide funding for the work that we do, and a lot of time we share that funding with our regional hubs and schools and training centers to help them do the work that they do. I like to think that we've set up core trainings and developed core trainings that are relevant and help solve some of the critical problems that our educators express to us. So we also hope that we've created a set of core trainings that help teachers make their jobs a little bit easier and helping kids get ready for college and career. I'll talk to you about this lovely seagull out here.
I was in a training not too long ago, and the trainer used this analogy, which I stole, and he talked about seagull PD, where trainers swoop in, leave a bunch of stuff, and then go away. And so we've worked really hard to make sure that our PD is sustaining and provide long-term support for people, and also leave our participants prepared to scale the learn. They have, up our trainings to folks at their schools or in their own districts.
I think we're going to go ahead and get started into our first package of trainings, and that Kelly's going to talk to you about the College Ready package.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. So we started with the College Ready tools back in about 2012. Essentially, the problem that was presented is, we have these college and career readiness standards. How are we going to help teachers shift their instruction to meet these new standards? So things like literacy standards, which were spread across the discipline. How are we going to support social studies teachers, science teachers in implementing these literacy practices inside their discipline? How are we going to help teachers shift to the practices, the next generation science standards, things like that? So as a whole, you'll see, I'm going to talk about the 3 different programs. As a whole, we've reached a little over 1,000 educators across 132 schools and in 7 different states. So especially at the very beginning of this work, we were in, it was sponsored through a grant with the Gates Fund, and so we had specific deliverables to work with other states within the STEMx network. We first embarked on this work with the literacy. We did this because it is applicable to all teachers, so regardless of what discipline you teach. And what this work does, what the tool does is it helps teachers think about how am I going to embed reading, writing, communicating inside my class, whether I'm teaching biology or civics. What does that look like? How do I figure out what are the unique pieces of literacy that the kids are only going to get inside my classroom? So, for example, inside a government class, I'm really working to help make sure I'm preparing students to be active and responsible citizens. So as we're looking at identifying different public problems that confront our communities, how do I research those problems and present solutions maybe to my local government or to my state senator or representative, something like that. So we partner with the Literacy Design Collaborative, LDC for short. It provides a framework which helps teachers think about that in terms of what is the big one that I'm going to have my students work on that has both reading and writing in it, how to backwards design my instruction, so I'm helping kids build the skills which will help them be successful on the overarching task, and then what kind of common framework, common rubric can I use to assess kids to make sure that they're progressing, and help inform me on what I'm going to do next in my classroom based upon the skills that kids are either getting or maybe they need to go back and try those again. So we started with literacy in around 2012, and a year later added math. And math is focused particularly, our group is for math teachers, grades 6 through 12, and it's on the math standards, so both the practices and the content-specific standards, and it helps teachers use formative assessment and formative assessment strategies. So it starts with a pre-assessment, ends with a post-assessment, and it helps you really figure out what are the misconceptions kids have, how do we help them identify those misconceptions and struggle through them, and then reevaluate to see where kids are. And we've done a whole webinar on this. We use the Math Design Collaborative framework, so I'm not going to go into too much detail there. The things that we talked about earlier was making sure that our problems are solving problems. And so with our collaboration with the Literacy Design Collaborative, one of the things that we found were that science teachers were having a hard time with embedding literacy inside their classrooms. A lot of times we were seeing teachers have kids read and write about science, when what we really want to make sure is happening is that they're having a chance to practice reading and writing while doing science. And so we're actually we have a video to kind of demo this work a little bit. So I'm going to have Rob go ahead and play that. sneak peek into the science work. One note before we talk about the actual process of the professional development for teachers is that all of these programs, all these college-ready tools are actually available and free to schools. So what makes it unique what we do here at Ohio STEM Learning Network, Rob, can you go ahead and move forward here? Core approach. So when we're leading professional development, we start by pulling all of the teachers, the educators together. Can you click? Learn the method. So what this looks like is it's hands-on or active. Teachers are experiencing the lesson like students would. So they're learning by doing, and it's led by teachers who are using these tools within their room. So they have time to experience it as students. They also have time to plan to figure out where does it go inside my scope and sequence of the school year. So the next piece is coaching, and this is where we talk about the backwards design process, right? So we're pulling in that data to begin with. So what are students doing? What are they successful with? What are they not so successful with? And we use that information to really design or redesign our instruction, our lessons, our kids. Our coaches give feedback during that design process so that when they're implementing it, they've had feedback from the coach to help it be more successful, but then after implementation, through that process again. So we look at the student, what was successful, what was not successful, and we go through that design cycle. So we do that several times throughout the year, supporting them in implementation. And the first implement is not great. We're learning too as teachers and educators, so we're helping them through that learning process. After several rounds of implementation, we pull folks all back together to, again, reflect like we've been doing throughout the coaching sessions, but also to talk about how do we scale this up. So what worked with our experiences, what didn't work with our experiences, what would we change as we then, and I'm saying me, but as those teachers and educators then take it back to scale up within their school. So better adapt it to meet the demands of their school building. So working with them to become the next set of trainers for their peers within their school or district.
Before I move us on, and we didn't put a lot of, sorry, this is Rob invisibly from the background here. We didn't put in a lot of marker questions, but I think our assumption is that if you have something you want to chat about, just drop a line in the chat, or you should be able as an attendee even to unmute yourself and go ahead and shout at us so we have a chance.
This is Mike from STEMx. One of the things about the college readiness models, I think some of the other states in STEMx have, used the Good Design Collaborative modules developed by STEMx, by the Ohio STEM Learning Network before. So folks, on the line that have experience with it, that want to chime in about how it's worked in their state or things they've learned from it, definitely do so.
I want to add that the work has really continued to evolve. One of the things that I'm really excited about is to see more templates and examples available for discipline teachers. We showed what Batal is doing with the science collection and really creating templates that can be used over and over again. Or with design, regardless of whether it's middle school or high school, like those skills get more advanced, but the template can be used to help teachers think about how they prepare kids with those skills. But the LDC is doing that across the other disciplines as well. So that's really exciting and supportive for teachers.
Thank you, Kelly. About the Innovative Leader Institute. It's sort of our next baby that we helped create in 2013. Had happened, but start several schools here in Ohio, starting with the Metro School. And what we're finding as we were starting these new schools, there was a dearth of leaders who could actually and take over and or start innovative schools, STEM schools, because they had not been trained to do that. There's not a training program specifically set up for leaders who want to do things differently. As I said earlier, we pulled together some of the founding principles of the best STEM schools in Ohio and Tennessee. For sure that Sandy Watkins is on the line, so Sandy, if you want to add anything, jump in or put it on chat. Sandy is one of our faculty members in our Tennessee Innovative Leader Institute, and I think that there might be some participants off on the webinar, so feel free to jump in and talk about your experience if you want. Innovative Leader Institute is a year-long cohort program. As I said before, we do meet 4 times throughout the year, 3 times in person, 1 time virtually. We are in our 4th cohort in Ohio. Tennessee is getting ready to start their 3rd cohort. We've trained about 200 educators or 200 leaders from since 2013 in 4 different states. And we have changed the model a little bit. Now we consider participants actually come in a team. We learned after our 1st year that the principals or assistant principals who were participants were interested in having another person from their school participate in the program so that they would have an ally. So participants come as a team with a principal or assistant principal and then any other identified leader in their school building. So I think now we're going to take a look at a video of Jason Johnson, who was our 1st cohort of the Innovative Leader Institute. So as a little glimpse of what goes on at the Innovative Leader Institute there, I think for years what we have found are there are 3 unique characteristics of I that we think sets it apart and from other training programs, other professional development programs for school leaders. The first is our faculty. So I said we the program initially with of the founding principals of STEM schools here in Ohio and in Tennessee. Has grown because in each cohort that goes through ILI, we identify some leaders within the cohort who we train. So we sort of have a bench now ready, faculty members who are ready to teach ILI to the needs. Currently our faculty for the Ohio ILI are Stephanie Lamline from Bioscience Academy, Dee Martin, who was the founding principal of Summit Road STEM Elementary and who's now at Hebron, Kathy McGinnis, founding principal of Marysville Early College High School, and Dr. Larry Johnson, who is the principal and founding principal of this Akron STEM High School. We like to think that we have a pretty powerful team of faculty members. What's really great is that these folks are actually in schools right now. They started schools, they know the challenges, navigate through the system, and they really share that expertise with the participants. I think the participants, based on feedback, really feel like that's an important part of the program, is that there are people, and whether that's the faculty member or their colleagues, there is a group of people that they can turn to if they're having a challenge or an issue, and somebody else has likely been through it and can share their experience. Another thing that we think is really innovative or sets the Innovative Leader Institute apart is everything that we do within the program, we hope can be taken back and implemented immediately within the school. So it's not a theoretically based program. It's very driven towards strategies that teachers and take back into their schools and use and share with their teachers, and the teachers can share with their students in classrooms. And I think thing that really sets Innovative Leader Institute apart from other PD programs is that it is an adaptable program. So we have a set program. You know, we sat down and said these are the things that we think folks would be interested in, but we also at every session a survey or an evaluation to find out what is really the most pressing concerns of the participants. So we have to scrap or completely modify the upcoming sessions because we make sure that we're meeting the needs of the participants and not just creating a box program they're not going to really benefit from. As I said, we do have an Ohio ILI, which is where we started. There is also a Tennessee ILI, and we also will take ILI on the road. We have been to Chicago, and so if anyone is interested in bringing ILI to your community, my contact information will be at the end.
So, no, some of the STEMx networks have asked about ILI before and had some questions. You know, some folks on the line who have had some interest in it before. I'm not sure if you guys have specific questions. I know, Brett, you've raised questions about it before, and wasn't sure if you've done any implementation down in Tennessee or anything like that, anything in your area.
Sure. Interactive. Are teachers not an explicit part of the ILI? So again, it goes sort of back to what we found as we were starting these STEM schools, that there were great teachers who wanted to teach in the schools, but they're not really great leaders who were trained and who were ready and who were flexible, and sort of jump into the situation, to a very different situation. So that's identified as a need, and as I said, there was a request from the first set of participants to somebody else from the building. So that's why we now have participants come as a team. A lot of times it is a principal or assistant principal and a teacher. Most of the time it is a teacher within the building.
It's a leader. So what we want to do is try to focus on capturing the leadership of a building, so at the administrative level, and then a lot of times someone who's in the classroom.
So of teachers and administrators and how they function differently in the ILI. So in school level administrators, yes, that's completely how the ILI is set up, and we don't separate them. We don't have a separate, we don't go into different tracks, teachers and leaders or administrators while they're participating in the program. We actually, and we've had a request from time to include district level administrators as part of the program, and that's really not what this is set up for. It's not the target audience. It becomes a great, and we get more interest in that somewhere down the line. We may create kind of a district level, how do you support the leaders and the principals in your district in implementing innovative strategies or STEM schools. At this point, we have very clear that that this is not the program for them. Also because we want the principals and the teachers and the leaders, other leaders who are participants, to feel like they can openly really talk about issues or challenges that are happening within their district. And we're not sure that would happen so easily if there were district level administrators participating. And I have a question. Yes, Brett, asking questions. Over to Heather, who's going to talk to you about the Trailblazer Teachers, which I'm doing right now. I know from the Trailblazer Teachers a couple months ago, and I really think I had access to these resources when I was a brand new teacher, especially. Things might go a little differently. I might still be a teacher.
Thank you, Stephanie. Yes. So, let's see, the state of Ohio started doing all of these straight A grants, and a lot of the straight A grants resulted in a ton of technology being pretty much dumped into schools. So I recognize that all of a sudden there's this influx of technology in all of these school districts and not guidance on how to use the classroom. And so we wanted to come up with a program to support teachers around pedagogy, personalized learning, and to help people use technology effectively in the classroom. So like the other formats, it's a year-long training. We have experts. When we first did the program, we used people from the Institute at North Carolina State University. They have a long history of teaching teachers, pre-service teachers, but then also working outside the middle school that they have on their campus to work embedded with students. So we have an all-round handle on what students need and what teachers need. So we started with 17 teachers, our original cohort of the Trailblazer program, and we have another short clip to show the program. So here we go with that. of that is a little bit about the Trailblazer Teacher program. The at the end is my favorite because everyone's laughing and cracking up. And I think that captured the spirit of everyone got along so well. I have a group right now on PAC, which is a piece of technology. Still, all summer long, all the teachers talked all the time, and it's been really neat to be a part of that community and to see a professional learning community start from nothing and grow to this really awesome resource for them. So we want to make sure that we effectively integrated technology, people support curriculum design using technology, and then also helps people leverage technology to personalize their teaching. This a whole bunch, us having the teachers learn themselves and then go back and implement, reflect with their community, and then be in a position to reteach other people in their school so that they can scale that learning in their district. We don't have funds to continue this in a formal way next year, so our scale is going to be informal, and there has been a lot of reteaching. If I were to get funding, I would take that cohort of teachers that we taught this year and disperse them all throughout the state and start anew, but I'm waiting for some funding for that to happen.
So the decision of the three programs, what we hope you will see, and we've hit on it, is this core approach that we, amongst all three of our programs, we're doing a little bit of teaching. We expect the participants to go and practice that, and then we expect participants to take a look at what they've done and how they've practiced, and to make changes and go out and spread that to everybody that they can. We also, I think, what is common amongst all three of the programs is that we've created communities of practice, and so once you're in the ILI, you have access to all the previous participants, future participants, faculty. So you're sort of, I think, once you become part of one of our programs, you are part of us forever and ever, whether you want to be or not. And we often are tapping participants to help us with presentations, writing proposals, training other people. I mean, so it makes a double-edged sword for participants that when you're in, and we don't back out. I think the other thing that is probably common amongst all three of these programs is that they are, as we've said, adaptable. So the idea of what we think is happening, but constantly checking in and rechecking and modifying and maneuvering and making changes as needed, so that we're really providing professional development that meets the needs of the participants.
We're asking participants to go through the design cycle, but we're doing it too. We're taking the feedback from all of our cohorts and redesigning to improve it for each future cohort.
So time for questions, if anybody has any.
What synergy are there the different programs from Brett?
Question.
Well, I always think that with your ILI, you're talking to all of kind of the school leaders, so it's a good, like, kind of identify needs of the various schools and direct them to supports that we have. I also know from our end, a lot of times we'll, like when we have teachers coming in, we'll talk about some of the other programs and direct them.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a two-way street. So we definitely, I know for sure that some of the participants or folks who have gone through College Ready Tools and who've gone through Trailblazers, their principals have been through ILI. And so also some the participants who've gone through College Ready Tools or Trailblazers have come back and said to their principals, hey, there's this really great program for leaders that you might be interested in. And so we kind of swap and share participants.
And I'll add, as I'm sitting here and listening I know Heather just recently finished the Trailblazer Teachers as it was in its pilot program, and so I saw a few of the former participants or coaches from some of the College Ready programs, and one of the things that I'm thinking right now is an area of need for my College Ready is to keep teachers connected. And so as you're talking about the outcomes of the Trailblazers, I would love to bring in some of that and probably reuse those resources and add to the success of more focused.
I developed
program.
Stealing elements of Kelly and Stephanie's program, like principal involvement. Although principals weren't in part of the Trailblazer cohort, we made sure that each teacher that applied had communication or a letter of support from their principal to make sure that the principal was going to be committed to helping the teacher implement what they learned.
So Linda from Arizona, is there a cost to the administrators for the ILI? Yes, there is. We were fairly fortunate in our first couple of years that had some funding from the Ohio Department of Ed that covered the cost of ILI. That was not the case for our fourth cohort, so our participants are paying a cost this year. Also, if we go out on the road, there is a cost, obviously, for us to take on the road.
We like blue. We like blue a lot.
As well as our information. Would like to, if you have any other questions, want any more information.
We've got another question.
Oh, another question.
The slides actually aren't showing on my end, just so you know.
Oh, you're not seeing our glamour shots?
No.
They're real shots.
There's some vision of Ohio.
What we've already talked about is sort of what kind of across all programs. So we talk about STEM, or at least I talk about STEM, not necessarily as more technology, engineering, and math classes, but really about how teachers teach and the way kids learn. And we also have a focus with STEM. We think that STEM is just one of the ways that schools can be innovative. And so we think cross-cutting, I would say, of each of these programs is that there is an opportunity for teachers to have input and participants to have input into what they're learning.
And that, like, across all of these, both the teachers and the leaders, that we're really building them to be the designers of effective instruction for their classroom or for their school. There are certain, like with the piece, there are frameworks, but within each of them, it's a constant, like, using it to guide, but then figuring out what's working for them, bringing in that local community and context.
I was thinking about the design cycle as well. Like, we own an idea, we get the idea, we adapt the idea, we get feedback, and we do it again. And we do that on so many different levels. We do it here when we're developing, we do it in the field when we're delivering the PD, but we also, I think, do it in the environment when we can say, what did people need 5 years ago? How have things shifted now that STEM is different in Ohio? And,
yeah, and I think we've spent a lot of time here talking about sort of mission or vision, and we've really sort of narrowed to the fact that we think every kid in Ohio should have access to this innovative education, whatever that looks like for their community. So I think that each of these programs offers opportunity for participants, whether they're teachers or leaders, to learn some new strategies, but also make it very relevant and take it back and do what's best for their school or community so that all students really are having access and getting them college and career ready.
Yeah. Can you, Rob, a few more questions? Glad to hear those answers. Thanks. What other questions do you guys have?
I see Linda said the screen's been paused. Did we get a chance to share those?
No, good.
Teachers get continuing education credits for the course. Has the State Department of Ed been helpful on that front? So,
wait, is there any situation where you would say the State Department of Ed, yes, they have been helpful?
well, no, we haven't asked because in Ohio, it's fairly easy for teachers to get a credit, I think, that they need for their annual evaluations by simply presenting a certificate to their area sort of coordinator.
Their LEA?
Yeah. I have a couple of times able to offer credit through Ashland University, which is a university here in Ohio that is well for their kind of PD and for especially for teachers. So most professional for teachers is going to offer credit through Ashland. Surprisingly, we've had very few people take advantage of that. There's a cost, obviously, but for most, as I think, provide certificates, teachers meet their needs for their continuing education.
Minutes or so left, so we can probably take one more question if one does come in.
Who's participated in any of these programs would like to share, that would be also really great.
I will put up the contact information now so you guys have a little time on that.
In the spirit of seeking feedback, you know, given that you've just heard presentations, would you change anything about our programs, or would you want to participate or send people to any of our programs, or any feedback for us?
To Rob or Mike later, anonymously if you want. No.
We can certainly make that happen.
Yes, Brett.
You go to www.osln.org/lead.
Oh.
You know, we're looking forward to having everyone who's on the presenting with us today at the STEM Exchange in December, and you know, those of you who are on the line who are STEMx leads or part of the leadership team within STEMx, we hope to see you in December 12th to the 14th down in Dallas for that meeting. It'll be great to have you all there, and we can hopefully continue those conversations at that time. I see everyone looking. Yeah, we'll be there, I swear. So I just want to thank our presenters really for helping out today and providing input on the programs that they're running. I've learned so much from them over my short time with STEMx, just about the great work that's going on in Ohio. You know, I'm really happy they were able to share their work with us today. And for those of you who are on the phone who have interest in sharing some of the work that's going on in your state that you want to highlight here, please let me know. We'll start filling out the calendar for next year very soon. As far as this year goes, next webinar is the Learning Blade program, which is an online platform for engaging students in learning more about STEM careers and increasing their interest in STEM learning in general. So we hope we will have you all on the line next month, and we look forward to continuing to work with you in any way possible. Feel free to contact me or our panelists at any time. And with that, have a great day, and we'll hear from you soon.
USA. Nice to meet you too, Linda. USA.
And go USA.
Yes.